When you're born, you don't have a concept of selfhood. Never mind the fact that you don't have language yet to know what this sound I means in English, but you also don't have the concept of what an I is, what a me is. What we want to figure out is where this concept of I came from. When did selfhood emerge? When did we realize that we were a thing, a me? Logically, it has to be an early infanthood, right? Because if you see a kid, they're already, when they're learning to talk, using sentences like, I want this or I don't like that. And they're saying I because they know they're a subject. So when we find out that we are an I, that we are a me, it has to be before language, but it wasn't something we're born with. For Lacan, the I is created in infanthood. Let's say that this is an infant and it is at least 6 months, and you hold up a mirror to it. So you might have held up a mirror to the baby before, but now at about 6 months to a year, it's old enough to be able to look in the reflection and see itself in that image or identify with that external image. This moment where you recognized yourself in this external image in the world, the imago as Lacan calls it, is when the I was created. It's not like you were an I all along, and when you look in the mirror you had an epiphany like, oh, that was me, I was a thing all along. No, there wasn't an I. When you were born, there was no I, there was no self, there was no identity there. There was just a living experience. Do you agree with Lacan so far? Or do you have a different theory of how you came to be an I? But the issue is that even though this is your reflection, this reflection does not look the way you feel. We could say symbolically that that infant feels more like this, kind of like a blob, a living experience, but in the inside it's chaotic, right? It's fragmented. Babies don't have much control over their bodies. They're not strong or robust. They're kind of passively responding to pain and hunger cues, but this image looks unified, strong, robust, whole. This moment where you saw yourself in the mirror and you identified with it, this was a misrecognition. How is it a misrecognition? It's a misrecognition because looks can be deceiving. Is your reflection really showing who you are? No. If you take a picture of yourself and look at it, all you have there is a picture of a physical vessel of flesh. But your reflection, your picture, your image does not show how chaotic you are on the inside. We are so complex. We have moods, we have contradictions, we have personality traits and quirks, and all these things that simply cannot be shown in our image. But the infant is really kind of jealous and envious of its own image. And it wants to eventually feel the way the image looks. It wants to stop feeling fragmented. And it wants to start feeling unified the way the image looks. But again, it's a misrecognition, right? Because this image, even though it's a depiction of your body, is not a depiction of all of you. It doesn't encompass all of you. Your image can't show what you feel. This is not like the Cartesian I think, therefore I am moment. If the ego is founded on misrecognition, then philosophies like Descartes' that presume a self-transparent, self-sufficient subject are misguided. There is no absolute subject. The I is the ego. So when we say I for Lacan, we are referring to our ego. They're almost one and the same. So this reflection is not the I, right? Because we're not really quite identifying with it. It doesn't feel identical. It doesn't really match us. It's almost alien. But since we like it, since we want to be as unified as this image, our external image in the world becomes our ideal I, or our ideal ego. Because remember, the I for Lacan is the ego. This image, even though it is a reflection of the baby's physical body, feels alien to it. It's alien to it in an envious way. Anybody wants to feel unified and robust. No one wants to feel out of control and fragmented. So the ideal I, the ideal ego, is your external image. So the I, the ego, was created, and it was created from a misrecognition. The infant saw itself in the mirror and thought, that's me. And it really was envious of the image. And the reason it's envious of the image is because the image does not look fragmented and chaotic. But the infant feels internally chaotic and fragmented and all over the place. So the identity is born on a fiction, on a misrecognition, and we spend our lives trying to become this idealized image of ourselves. But it's never going to happen.
This form situates the agency, known as the ego, prior to its social determination, in a fictional direction that will forever remain irreducible for any single individual, or rather, that will only asymptotically approach the subject's becoming, no matter how successful the dialectical synthesis by which he must resolve, as I, his discordance with his own reality.
So what is the real you? What's the authentic you? For Lacan, there is not one. There's not a real I waiting to be uncovered. The reason you have a concept of I, of subjecthood, that you could say me about yourself, is because you have had a moment where you identified with an external image of yourself. But that external image of yourself was a misrecognition. Your image can never fully show who you are in the inside and your inner fragmented, chaotic experience. The identity that you now have, the I, is built off of this fictional alien image of yourself that you are envious of and want to be like, but you're trying to be like something you aren't. Another way to imagine this is if you've seen someone who looks really sketchy, not trustworthy somehow. But when you get to know them, you realize that looks can be deceiving. And that's exactly true. Our external image cannot show who we are and what we feel on the inside. So as a baby, when you identify with this image, it's actually a misrecognition, because we just said looks can be deceiving. When you misrecognized yourself in the mirror, that was necessary. It's sad because it was a misrecognition. Now your identity is built on this fictitious external image. But it was necessary, because how else would we function in the world if we didn't have a concept of selfhood? If we didn't know that we were an individual subject or I? There's always going to be a split between what you as a subject feel, your inner experiences, your personality, your contradictions, and your external image.